starting with the subject OEC, that is open elective course. In that we have chosen statistics as our subject from maths and from mathematics department. And this is a very much scoring subject. You know, last semester our GS, that is Sushant, he has scored 97 out of 100 marks. So you can concentrate on this subject and you can score well. Okay, I'll give you a brief information about the syllabus of this subject. Now in this subject, the first topic is frequency distribution. First topic is frequency distribution, under which you are going to study about how to classify the data, whether it is group series, ungroup series or continuous series. How to classify the data, it will cover under frequency distribution. I'll just give a brief description about the syllabus. Then the second one is, it is not a second module, in first module only. Next part is measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency. In this you are going to study mean, median, mode, quartile, decile, percentile, all the averages. Then third one is measures of dispersion. Measures of dispersion, or dispersion is also known as variation. Dispersion is also known as variation. This is the next point. All these three topics comes under first topic only, first module only. Then the second module is related to skewness. Second module is related to skewness, but skewness is again depend upon your dispersion. So each and every topic is interrelated here. Okay, skewness is depend upon dispersion. Under this skewness you are going to study, first one is Carl Pearson's coefficient of skewness, and second one is Bowley's coefficient of skewness. Now as per this skewness, Carl Pearson coefficient of skewness is based on your averages like mean, median, mode, standard deviation, etc. Whereas Bowley's coefficient of skewness is depend upon quartiles. So to continue with this skewness topic, you should know mean, median, mode, standard deviation and quartiles. Okay, this is about your second module. Come to third module. Third module is related to correlation and regression. Correlation and regression. Now in this correlation and regression there are two different topics. One is correlation, another one is regression. But regression is depend upon correlation. They are included in one module. Okay. Now under this correlation and regression, you are going to study methods of correlation, and you are going to study regression equations. Now this topic is again repeated in your next topic, next subject, that is BRM, business research method. Same topic is there. You can either go that method or this method. No problem. Okay, this is our third module. Then come to fourth module. Fourth module is little bit tedious, which is known as probability. Fourth module is known as probability. Here you are going to study simple probability, then combination problems, then you are going to study complementary event, and addition theorem. You have to prove the addition theorem as well as you have the problems on addition theorem. So this is also an important topic. And last module, that is fifth one, is theoretical distributions. Now under this theoretical distribution, again this theoretical distribution is related to probability. There are three types of distribution. First one is binomial distribution. Second one is Poisson distribution, and third one is normal distribution. This is the syllabus for this semester, and as per the university circular, we have to finish this syllabus within 3 months. That is October, November, December. January first week your exam will be there. So be attentive, whatever videos I am giving to you, go through it personally, read it very well. If there is any doubt, you have my number, you can call me at any time and you can clarify your doubt. Now in this I'll start with the first topic, that is frequency distribution. I'll start with first topic. Frequency distribution. Now in this frequency distribution, first of all we will start with classification. There are two parts here. One is classification, another one is tabulation. We will start with classification first, because once you know classification, you can easily go for the tabulation there. Now what do you mean by classification? Now classification is nothing but dividing the data or information into different groups. There may be 1 group, 2 groups, 3 groups, 5 groups, but we have to consider the similar features of that particular data. This is nothing but your classification. So classification is nothing but a statistical process of dividing the statistical data or observations into different groups with similar features of observations are covered under one group. Suppose, for example, suppose your class interval is 0 to 10. And suppose the value is 15. Can you include this 15 in 0 to 10? No, because 15 is more than the maximum limit of this class interval. So we cannot include. This is called as, this is nothing but this is the data, this is the class interval. We cannot include because there is no similar feature between this. Suppose 10 to 10 and the value is 8. Can we include or no? Yes. 8 comes under 0 to 10. So this is called as similar features of observation. Take one more example. Suppose the 15 to 19. If this is the class interval, and if you have the value as 17 we can include in 15 to 19. So this is called as similar types of features. Clear classes. If you have any doubt, please contact and clarify your doubts. Okay. Today I am finished with the theoretical part. Next class, next video I will give you the problems. Okay. Now, after this classification meaning, the important term is types of classification. Types of classification. They may ask this for 5 marks also as a theoretical question. Okay, now under these types of classification, there are 4 types of classification. There are how many types? 4 types of classification. I'll write one by one. In that, first one is geographical classification. First one is geographical classification. Then second one is chronological classification. Chronological classification. Third one is qualitative classification. Qualitative classification. And fourth one is quantitative classification. Quantitative classification. These are the 4 types of classification. Now, what do you mean by geographical, chronological, qualitative and quantitative classification? There is no hard and fast rule that you have to write the definition only, and there is no definition available on these 4 types of classification. You have to write in your own words. Now see, first one is geographical classification. Into bracket I will write here, it is based on area. It is based on area. Whatever may be the area, it is based on area. This much you have to remember. Chronological classification is nothing but it is based on time. Based on time. Qualitative classification is based on quality of any product. Quality of any product. And quantitative classification is based on quantity. It is based on quantity. These are the 4 types of classification. You can write in your own words the meaning of this geographical, chronological, qualitative and quantitative. Now I have written on a board. Just check. Geographical classification. It is based on what? Area. Means the classification which is done on the basis, or if the data is classified on the basis of area or any geographical location. You can take any geographical location. You can take the street also, you can take the nation also, you can take the state also, you can take the city also. It is all comes under geographical area. Okay, I'll give you the example. We'll go one by one. Now, geographical classification is nothing but if the data is classified, if the data or observations are classified on the basis of some area or any location, geographical location, then it is called as geographical classification. For example, I will write here example. Classification of sugarcane in Maharashtra. One more example I will write. Classification of groundnuts in Karnataka. Suppose these are the 2 examples. Why these 2 examples comes under the Check here. Here there is first example is, it is nothing but a classification of what? Sugar cane in Maharashtra. Now Maharashtra is a geographical area. Means the classification which is done on the basis of geographical area, it is known as geographical classification. In second example also you see. Again there is a classification of what? Groundnuts in Karnataka. Again Karnataka is a geographical area. Clear? We'll move forward. Okay. We'll go to second one. Second one is chronological classification. Chronological classification. Chronological classification. Now in bracket I have already given, it is based on what? Time. Means if the data or observations are classified on the basis of time, is known as chronological classification. If the data or observations are classified on the basis of time, it is known as chronological classification. So you can mention here, it is based on time. Okay. For example, now which type of example here will give? I'll write here yearly profit, or I'll write monthly sales, or one more example you take half yearly production. All these examples comes under chronological classification because in these examples time is known. Now what are the time here? In first example you see there is a classification of what? Profit on the basis of yearly. Year comes under time or no? So this is known as chronological classification. Second example also, it is a monthly sales, means there is a classification of sales in a month wise. Classification of sales month wise. Now month comes under time. Next one, third example also you see half yearly production. There is a classification of production half yearly. Year, half year, month, a day, a second, or a minute, all comes under chronological classification. Means if the data is classified according to the time, then it is called as chronological classification. Clear? We'll go to third one. We'll go to third one. Third one is qualitative classification. Qualitative classification. Now as you know, it is based on what? Based on quality. Based on quality. Now how to write the definition of qualitative classification or meaning of qualitative classification? That observations, or if the data or observations are classified on the basis of quality of a product, is known as qualitative classification. It is also known as, this qualitative classification is also known as classification by attribute. Classification by attribute. Now what do you mean by attribute? Attribute is nothing but feature or a characteristic. Feature or characteristics, or it is nothing but your quality only. Okay. Now for example, you can write any type of example. A quality product. A quality product. Now there are many products in that. I will write branded shoes. Branded shoes. This is the first example I have taken. Now, how we will bifurcate branded shoes as per qualitative classification? Some of you are wearing shoes brand called as Nike, Adidas. Okay, there are many brands of shoes in the market. So, if you classify the shoes according to the brand, it is called as qualitative classification, because Nike quality is different, Adidas quality is different, Reebok quality is different, leather shoes quality is different. So if you distribute or if you classify the data on the basis of the quality of a product, it is called as qualitative classification. Then the last one is fourth one is quantitative classification. Quantitative classification, already I have given you, this is based on what? Based on quantity. This is based on quantity. Now this is nothing but if the data or observation is classified on the basis of quantity or character of quantity, it is known as quantitative classification. Okay. If the data or observations are classified on the basis of a quantitative character, then such classification is known as quantitative classification. For example, I write one example. Classification according to height. Classification according to height. Then one more example I will write. Classification according to weight. Take these two examples. Now in these two examples, what are the quantitative characters? Here the quantitative characters are weight, height and weight. Now height we can measure in terms of centimeter or inches. You can measure your height in terms of centimeter or inches. These are known as quantitative characters. Whereas weight you can measure in terms of kgs or kilowatt. So these two are known as quantitative characters. Up to this is clear? I will repeat once again. Classification, meaning and types is most important for 5 marks. Okay. Classification is nothing but we have to divide the data or classification. We have to divide the data or classification into different groups, but we have to consider the similar feature of that data or observation. Now, types of classification. There are 4 types of classification. One is geographical, second one is chronological, third one is qualitative, fourth one is quantitative. Geographical is based on area, then chronological is based on time, qualitative is based on quality, and quantitative is based on quantity. This is what you have to remember. You can write in your own words because there is no particular definition available for all these 4 classifications. Okay. For today, this much is enough. Tomorrow I will send one more video, and that video is most important for your problems. Okay, because before starting with the problems, I have to teach the theoretical part of that problem. How to take the class intervals. What are the types of class intervals? What do you mean by class interval? All these things in the next video we will discuss. But see the video. If there is any doubt, come back to me. I will explain once again, no problem. I know I am also doing this first time. This video I am doing, this is my first video. I know there may be some mistake also. If there is any mistake, come to me, let me know the mistake. I'll clarify. We'll send the second video. Okay? And this is the scoring subject. Don't neglect, because this is the open elective subject. We have taken from the maths department, because last semester also we have taken the same subject, and students, they have scored really well. 90, 92, 97, 86. Kedar has scored 86 also. Then you can think of it. Okay? Yes. So tomorrow I'll send one more video. I'll open a YouTube link. My